Welcome to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank. Susan, welcome to the show. Please, for the audience out there listening, introduce yourself to us.
Okay, well, welcome. I'm really glad to be here. This is a nice little treat for a early morning for me. Early morning is 10:30 in the morning.
I'm so curious to what that is right behind you to your left.
Oh, my grotesque.
I guess
It's a grotesque. This little guy over here.
Is it a statue?
Yeah, it's a statue. It's
Okay.
kind of fun. It's got a Scottish hat beanie on. And then this is James Randi, and there's a gargoyle back there too. And this is a bunch of paperwork I'm working on. There's a cat behind here too. So
this does that is that up is like, would that be, does that lead into you, like anything that you do?
no, he's just a good friend.
Okay. All right.
My
Huh.
grotesque. He
It
hangs
looks
out
nice.
with me. Well, I think it's actually a woman. I'm not really sure, but she kind of just hangs out with me. And we're a bit odd over here. And we call our house catnip corners. It's a little odd. And I'm in the war room. This is what they call it. So
The war room?
yeah, this is where I do all my activism and so on. So I'm Susan Gerbic. I am born and raised in Salinas, California. Still live here. And I am retired, and I was a portrait photographer, mainly focusing on infants and under age 5 for 34 years. And I was retired in 2016. And now I'm a full-time kind of skeptical activist, and I do a lot of things. I'm really interested in the community of skepticism, very interested in conferences and growing the community and supporting people who want to do more, the armchair kind of skeptics who are, listening to podcasts and reading articles and books, but they've just kind of been, what should I do? I really want to get active, but I don't know where to start. So I am they more or less saying I herd cats. And I have a lot of managerial experience from my years working in retail. And so I took on psychics just kind of as a fluke whenever I was, I was looking for something to do back in 2010, trying to find what it was that I was going to focus on. And I stumbled on a person named Robert Lancaster, who was posting on a forum back in the day before Facebook called the James Randi Educational Forum. And he was investigating Sylvia Browne, the psychic. And so he was a kind of just a regular guy, computer programmer. And he had shown how we could take all the claims of Sylvia Browne, because she had made them on a show called Montel Williams. It was a talk show back in the day. It was pretty popular. And she, I guess, didn't see that the internet would be a thing someday. And I think that was in the 80s or 90s she was on this show. But by 2000, transcripts became available. So what Robert Lancaster was doing was taking her actual transcripts from the show. And when she used to go on to another radio show called Larry King Live that was on CNN. And so he would take her transcripts and she would say something to a family member or, whatever it was she had done. So whenever he found that she had named somebody, something that could be checked, he would go and he would investigate it. And then he wrote this all up in these really interesting articles, and they appeared on a website called Stop Sylvia or Stop Sylvia Browne. And it was like a light bulb moment for me, because it was a way of somebody, an average person like myself, to be able to get involved and look at the facts. And he wrote about he wrote about her, what she investigated, what she had not investigated, what she had, the claims she had made. And he was never cruel. He was never flippant. He just was like, here's the facts. And it was wonderful, really eye-opening. It was no snarkiness or anything of the sort. And I I took on psychics as kind of my thing, because I started helping him just with finding articles and things, just really little things. But it
Do you
kind of fell in my lap.
do you have a belief in the paranormal at all? Do you have any type of like? Because I've had deja vu and stuff that's like kind of a little bit eerie and stuff that seems like, oh, that's weird. People call that like a glitch in the simulation, or people say it's like
The
some
Matrix.
type of psychic thing. Now, I'm open minded to that to no end, just because there's been things like there's a girl that went missing a long time ago called Sarah. I think her name's Sarah Foxwell. Like when I was a kid, and my mom said she had a dream, and then they called in an anonymous call. And then when they found the girl exactly where my mom had that dream of where the girl was. Now, take that for what you will. But my dad is completely like, I don't believe in any of this type of stuff. And then ever since that day, he really never questioned her on those types of things. Now, that claim aside, I'm just saying there's been things like, for instance, Dreamwise, or thing where deja vu constantly. I've never seen this moment before, but it's something you have a dream about. I'm in more belief of that. Like, I definitely think there's like something that should be investigated there. But my issue starts to become is when you have psychics saying that they trying to talk to the dead. Now, there's a fine line if you're doing it for free and you're a friend trying to help someone grieve over the passing of a family member. That is a little bit of sketchy territory, but kind of like walking on glass, I'd say. But when you're charging people an arm and a leg, and people are more than willing in their guilt or whatever to be able to do, just because they want to last words with their loved one that's passed away, I consider that very, very, I don't know, icky in a sense.
Well, yeah, it's icky. And the things you mentioned also about not charging or helping your friend get over it, no, they're
Those are bad
definitely
too.
on the path. They're definitely a no-no, because a lot of psychics will try to get their, they're not confident. It takes a lot of time to build up a career. I mean, this is a very competitive market. These people are, there's lots of other psychics who say they can do what they do, or we call them grief vampires. Mark Edward, who's my partner, and he's a mentalist, and he's also a debunker of psychics from way back. He used to be in the Psychic Friends Network, and he wrote a book called Psychic Blues. So, we're kind of a family of psychic busters over here. But Mark Edward and I call them grief vampires. And these are people who prey on the desperation, the vulnerability of these people who are, at a time in their lives where they should be not thinking about communicating with the dead. They should be actually speaking to a licensed therapist, somebody who's a grief counselor, somebody who can guide them through. But telling them that you can see or talk to their dead family members is just, it's insulting.
Mhm.
They're trying to get a hook in them. And so a lot of these psychics that mediums, they're called mediums when you say you can talk to the dead. A psychic might not necessarily be claimed to be able to speak to the dead, but mediums all are psychics. So it's, I'll use the words interchangeably, mediumship and psychics and grief vampires, but they aren't necessarily the same thing. My point is that when they're just starting out in their careers, a lot of them will try to latch onto missing children, people who are missing, people who are in the news. If you had a child missing or something like that, you're going to get hit with people constantly, calling in, trying to hook onto your grief.
There was
Making all sorts of claims.
There was that one lady that said that she found a little girl, or found her, said that the girl had died or whatever. And the one girl interviewing her was that little girl that she said she found all those years ago. It was a very public look. I mean, there's definitely that's where kind of, I mean, it's hard to, because you want evidence, you want fact in a lot of these things. And a lot of people don't have those or can't show you. Like, I can't show you what my deja vu is, for instance, but I could tell you it happened. But I mean, I'm also not trying to, dress up in I don't know what you call, have a crystal ball or anything like that. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm more keeping it to
Right.
myself. And
Well,
then
of
I
course not. And
vent
the
into
human
it.
brain is amazing the way it works. And
Yeah.
if you read anything by Elizabeth Loftus, who talks about memory and how fallible it is and how we can easily implant memories of people. She's just written many books on it. She's fascinating. And, as I was saying about the psychics that will latch onto a family who's desperate and their child is missing, they'll put out throw everything they can at the at the police saying, oh, well, I'm seeing the number 6 and I'm seeing a rock, a large rock and a body of water and all this other stuff. And if anything hits, then they're all over it. Oh, I said I saw the number 6 and there was Highway 6 right there, and it's just like, that wasn't helpful to the case at all. It was just a number 6. And they don't charge. This is the thing. They'll say they don't charge. So I've heard that many times. People will say, oh, well, she doesn't charge. It's like, because she's not good at it yet. She hasn't gotten her, she's not confident in it yet. She's still trying to get a reputation.
She's in basic training.
Yeah, she's in training. Yeah. So people who say I'm doing it, but I'm not charging. Well, so what? You're just not good at it yet. If you could get good at it, you would be charging. Trust me. Yeah. These people make money like crazy, hand over fist. A lot of it's cash. So,
eventually someone's going to be like, well, you should get your license for it. The next thing, like the Reiki energy healing thing. How do you feel about that? Because I'm so against that. Like, you put your hands on me, somebody's getting assaulted.
Well, the Reiki is where you don't touch.
Yeah, they hover above you.
Just wave at you. Oh, come on.
That's like, I'm not touching you and sticking your finger in
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
That angers me even more.
Well, people do it and people love it because there's an awful lot of lonely people out there. Robbie, you got to remember that, especially during this pandemic, people are really desperate for attention. I mean, we're all sitting here looking at our phones. You get in a long line at the movie theater or wherever you're at, we're looking at our phones. We're not looking at the person next to us and saying, hi, how you doing? Or no, we're not talking to each other. We're not communicating like we used to. We're just, this world, especially here. Well, I don't know if it's just America, but it's just this world where we're not communicating. People are lonely, they're isolated, we're living longer, but we're not living healthier, happier lives with large communities. And Americans don't seem to be necessarily having a lot of children, so we don't have a lot of connection. Our kids are growing up, moving away to, across the country from us sometimes, and people are really vulnerable. And so they want somebody to touch them or to focus on them, to really spend some time. And a lot of these alternative medicine people will sit down with a client. I mean, they've got a lot more time on their hands than, a regular licensed medical practitioner, where they will sit and say, okay, so tell me what's been going on in your life. How are you sleeping? What are you eating? Are you getting enough exercise? How's your dog? How's your cat? They're really getting personal with these people, and they develop a whole relationship with them. So I can totally understand why people would want to go see a Reiki healer or a naturopath or whatever, because it's almost like you're paying them for attention. And I get it, totally get it. And it's a societal thing. It's societal. It's not necessarily the problem with regulatory, where we can will this away by making laws. And the same thing with psychics. They want to have somebody that will listen to them and not, it's when you go meet a friend for a drink or something, where you're going back and forth about what's going on in your life. You might not ever get a chance to say what's going on in your life, but a psychic's going to listen to everything. They're going to take notes when they're done. And they're going to use that against you later by, hey, I had this dream about your that ex-boyfriend you had years ago that you said that you felt bad about because he got away. Well, you know what? I think he's really trying to get in touch with you from the other side now. I mean, come on.
That's a cheap shot.
Well, they do it. They don't have a conscience.
I mean, I'm understanding more now why you choose to pursue the psychic thing. Because I mean, now that you kind of put it in that way, it's hard. But I feel like I had an episode with a lady that was she brought the ghost of JFK, brought the ghost of Walt Disney, now look, a lot of people messaged me over that episode like, you really believe that? Now you can see in the episode, obviously my face is trying not to crack the biggest smile it's ever had, but at the same time, what I kind of brought it to the point was that throughout her life, she probably felt a little bit different, felt like something was a little bit off, and people probably told her that she was special or some aspect. But then she goes to like explaining a Grand Canyon visit and talking to a Native American person. Now, this could have all been a scheme as well, too, saying, oh, there is a secret power about you. Someone tells you that when you're already thinking it, it's already pushing you over the cliff of like, I'm going to start pursuing this path. And that's what I feel like a lot of times gets built up with a lot of people. It might start off with doing it for free, but then your friend convinces you that you're good, or maybe you come across some gypsy teller that tells you, hey, you are amazing at this. And then you jump towards it. Now that leads into a whole other thing, because I think people want to feel special. People want to feel
Absolutely.
different. And that's
Mhm.
a very toxic trait, I would say. Like, I would tell you everyone's better than me only because I have a huge ego issue. So as soon as you start stroking it, we're in an issue. But I really think that a lot of people really just want to feel like they're that next rapper, they're that next spotlight, they're that next thing. And that's kind of where you see this climate fighting, where now this community, I wouldn't say even the psychic community, I would say any community of content creation or any type of community out there, business aspect wise, whatever, is more cutthroat than it is. And it's sad because it's more personal. Like, if me and you talking, for instance, if we were in a business, the same thing, rivaling each other, if it's more cutthroat, it's more personal because we know we can see each other. We're right next to each other or whatever. That's more than a Walmart corporation going against Chick-fil-A, or a Chick-fil-A going against a McDonald's, or a McDonald's going against a Burger King, because they have so many locations. There's no personal contact. It's like messaging on Twitter. I can't see your face. I don't know what you mean. The empathy is gone. I believe you can sense empathy. I mean, I think through 1,000 something episodes, I prove I know where to take a flow of a conversation, all because you get a vibe for the person that you're talking to. Whether you like, I can tell if I say something that's would be like, yes, I do believe in healing rocks. I believe you could place healing rocks on there. I could see you immediately know that I'm joking, but at the same time, I would sense if it was a pullback. You know what I mean? And I feel like you get that from just talking to people. You pick up a vibe, you learn how a conversation goes. But then there's that like weird thing I usually bring up, which is if I'm thinking about you and you're thinking about me and I send you a message and you go, I was just thinking about you. If that's a coincidence, I don't know how you label that a coincidence. I just
It's a
think there's
coincidence.
there's got to be a frequency or
No, no,
something
no,
that.
no. You also you remember the hits, forget the misses. That's the easiest way of saying it. How many times do you think of somebody and they don't call?
No, but when my ex texts me, I'm like, all right, I was just thinking about you. Why does that
Well, you
happen?
probably think about your ex a lot more than you think.
I do. Heartbroken.
So there you go. So once they text you and you go, I was just thinking about you. Well, what does just thinking about you mean? I mean, it was that 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, yesterday,
Right
earlier
after I got
today.
out of the shower.
also also we have a pattern, especially somebody you're close to, somebody you have a rhythm of life. You know, I know my son's going to call me about 4:30 because that's his normal routine. He gets out of work, he calls me on the phone, and on his drive home he calls me. Now if I hadn't talked to my son for ages for some reason, which would be strange, I would still have that feeling around 4:30. That's the routine that he would call me. My mom's been dead for years now, and I still have this moment where I used to call her when I get off of work. Oh, I take a break and I'd walk down to the post office. I was gone maybe 15 minutes and I'd always call her at that 15-minute mark. And I'd always do that. So around that same time of the day, or if I'm taking a walk, doing that same kind of, that same route, I always think of her. And so it's a rhythm of life. So it's not unusual for somebody to think of somebody and then they call or whatever, because we're connected to people. We know each other. We learn intuitively how how it works. They get out of work about this time. This is about the time they would take a break. This is a Saturday morning. They used to sleep in and they used to call, whatever. And you forget how much you think about them until they call. And then it's ding, your brain gives you a reward. Ooh, coincidence? I think not. It is. No,
So I
no, no,
want
no,
to,
no. It's just the way our brains work.
I
No.
want to test the waters here. So when it comes to DMs, if I'm getting a message from someone saying that they can read my ancestors' fortune and my ancestors are trying to contact me, don't put in my credit card information.
Yeah, I think that would probably be a bad thing. Yeah. I think that'd be bad. Or unless you want to talk to them on the show. I mean, heck, I had a woman who contacted me. She said, Susan, I know that if you had, because we did this New York Times article that appeared 2019, 2018, I can't remember, where we caught a psychic. Operation Pizza Roll and Operation Peach Pit. It was two different operations we did. So it was New York Times Magazine. So this woman, she said, if you had a real reading from a real psychic, then you would believe and you put down your skeptic cup or whatever. And I was like, okay, so let's do a real reading, but I want to do it live over Facebook, because if you're real, I don't want anybody saying that I didn't release the whole interview or whatever. I want everybody to see it in real time. So she wouldn't be on camera. She said she didn't do social media. So I called her on the phone and put her on speakerphone, and I was on the camera the whole time. And it was an hour or more, and it was just, it was awful. She had my grandfather on one side who was having popcorn with me and watching TV with me. And I've never met my grandfather. He died in 1930 before TVs were anything, And then she had my grandmother, another grandmother that, I never met her either. So she said I had problems with I was going to buy a new pillow.
Did you buy a new pillow?
No,
I would have bought a new pillow after that.
No, I didn't. And it was just ridiculous. And I have the whole video and the whole all on my website for people to read, as well as the analysis. And all these people were watching on Facebook. They're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Watch her, check her out. And it just, you could see her trying to like wiggle her way out of things. Like she said, she knew I had children because I'd mentioned it just like it did right now. And so at one point, the psychic says, your grandmother is upset about the man you had children with. And I'm like, okay. Well, it's just a weasel word because I didn't say I was married and she didn't know I had children. So it was her way of saying the man you had children with. She didn't say your husband, anything like that. But she knew I was not with she knew I wasn't married at the moment I had the reading because that had come out. So why would my grandmother be upset at my ex? Well, we're not together. So I'm sure there's a good reason for it. You know what I mean? It was just a weasel, the way she was trying to get out of it. Most of these people, they're very good at talking. They're very glib. It's a skill. You practice it. Cold reading is an absolute skill. And what happens is when you're getting a reading from a psychic, most of the times you're not recording it. Most of the times there's no video. You're just remembering what happened, and it's emotional, very emotional. So you're remembering the hits, forgetting the misses, and you're misinterpreting what's happening because the psychic is using a lot of wordplay. I mean, I'm at a point now that when people tell me stories about whatever, I say, okay, can I see the video or audio? And if they don't have it, I'm like, okay, that's nice. It's a nice story, but it means nothing because it's not real whenever you can't hear it because there's so much misinformation going on in these things. It's incredible amount. And I'll give you one example. I had a woman write to me, and this is the weirdest thing because she says, I'm an atheist, but she had a reading from a psychic. And so she was thinking that I don't get how you can be an atheist and still think that there's like life after death, but okay.
Purgatory.
Well, she's an atheist. That means there's nothing, right? So
hang on a second. Let me light this candle and channel my answer.
She says to me, she had a reading years ago and she just was totally blown away because the psychic, and we hear this phrase all the time, Robbie, all the time. There's no way the psychic could have known. Well, I'm here to tell you there's many ways the psychic could have known. There's maybe 1,000 ways the psychic could have known. But anyway, I wrote an article on that too. And I talk about how easy it is to find it. Look, you're looking right at me. Look at my background. You can see things around me. You can see the shirt I'm wearing. You can hear my age and you can see me. You can listen to my voice, my accent, my level of education. You can pick all that up just from talking to me over Zoom for a few minutes. Yeah, there's cues all around me.
You're in your 30s. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, 30s. No, oh yeah, 50s.
I'm a channeler, not a carny. I can't guess those things.
But this woman contacted me and she says, she had this accurate reading and she was freaked out by it. And I said, well, how long ago was this? She goes, well, a long while. And I said, well, if you thought it was so accurate, why did you never go back to that psychic? I mean, why did you, if it was so great, to me, if I had contact with the dead, hell yeah, I probably would never leave their room, or I'd be booked every day. I sure as hell want to talk to the dead. But she says, I have a cassette. That's how long ago it had been. I said, you have a cassette of the reading? She goes, yeah. So she put it into MP3 format. And she writes back to me and she says, I haven't listened to this in ages. And now that I'm listening to it, I realize how ridiculous it was and how wrong it was. But she had remembered it. She'd remembered it clearly as all these hits. But when she listens to it like 15, 20 years later, she's like, that was really bad. I said, well, let me listen to it anyway. So she gave me the audio, and I got through about the first 10 minutes, and I'm transcribing it, making notes as I go. It was the most ridiculous stuff. And I said, you were in the room with this psychic at the time, weren't you? And she says, yeah. I said, well, he's looking at you. He can see you. He can, all the,
You're kind of like tunnel vision.
Well, it was just, you could tell, she's like, oh, he knew I was from the Southwest, and you could tell from her voice that she was a person from that kind of era, that area. And I'm sure she was the type that had like all this turquoise jewelry and, the Southwest kind of look, I could just tell. And I'm going, well, that's not much of a guess. And I'm sure her skin was really dark, suntanned from the sun, being
I'm below the Mason-Dixon line. I know how it goes.
Well, she was saying that there was no way he could have known that she was from this area where it was very hot and dry, like Arizona, New Mexico. And I'm like, well, I kind of picked that up on your just, listening to your talk and stuff. But she was just totally believed that there was no way. And then when I went back and I showed her the notes I'd made, she's like, oh, I feel really stupid now. And I'm like, well, don't feel stupid. It's a skill that they have and you don't. And you're not listening to the tape over and over. So of course you don't hear it.
Very important question. Are you looking at it like instead of taking out the weeds out of the driveway, you got to find the base root of the thing, which would be to expose the psychic. So then anybody that they gave a fortune to, you can show that they were believing in something. Because it seems like trying to convince someone who just got a fortune has got to be a very delicate situation. Let's say a person's like, I got to talk to whoever. It's going to be very difficult to be like, you didn't talk to it. No, what you did is that this person tricked you. They're going to get mad at you, but it would be easier to just expose the psychic. Like your psychic was a fraud. So probably anything that they gave you, you could toss it. Are you writing that down? Was that good? That was good. I see it in your eyes. It lit up. It was like, this is it. This is great stuff.
Sorry, it was good. But the thing is, you hit on it, but that's not what we do. I don't do that. I almost never talk to believers. The believers come to me and say, I read some of your articles and now I'm just devastated because I realized that I was taken. And I realized that the psychic read off my Facebook page. And I didn't realize that before. I had one woman write to me and I watched her in real time because we were on a Zoom call with the psychic was doing readings to this whole room. And we saw her because I have a team of people who will do this. We could see the reading and she's bawling and she's crying and it's during the pandemic, which has really been bad for a lot of people. And she was just devastated. She goes, my husband's here, my son's here, and my dad was there. And oh, she's crying and crying and crying. And my team is watching this and we're able to Google her in real time. We could see her Facebook page. We're going, oh, well, there's all the information right there on her Facebook page. And she's bawling and she starts talking about to the psychic and, the rest of the room. She says, I was having trouble getting into the Zoom call. So I reached out to the assistant for the psychic and told him how desperate I was to get in touch because it was Christmas time and I was so sad and blah, blah, blah. And then she enters the room and she says, I can't believe it. I got a reading almost 15 minutes into the reading. It was amazing because there's like 300 people on the call and only like 10 people are going to get a reading. And it was like, well, duh, you entered the room and you looked emotional and you were desperate and they put you to the front of the line. Somebody did a Facebook search on you and fed you all this information. So anyway, we could see this happening, but we said nothing. We never say anything. We're just there and they don't know we're there. And then a week or two later, I had, I've written lots of articles about this one psychic. His name is Thomas John. And so the seatbelt psychic, by the way.
Why seatbelt? Why seatbelt?
Well, he has a TV program called The Seatbelt Psychic.
Why do they always have TV programs? I don't trust anything with them.
Well, they're only there for one season. Then he had another Thomas John experience. He had a Caesars show at Vegas until the pandemic. Oh yeah, I've written about him a bunch of times. But so let me finish the story with this woman. She writes to me and she says, it's taken me days to write to you because I've been crying so much because I Googled him. She says, I Googled the psychic because I was really curious about how much things cost and how much money he was making. And she Googled and I came across one of your articles. And she says, and I realized he just read off my Facebook page. And she was just devastated. And we talked for a long time, several days over email, and she was floored. And she realized what happened. She didn't give up her belief in psychics. We also hear this all the time. Okay, that psychic's a fraud, but not the other psychic, because they're not willing to give up on this belief. They're raised on it. I mean, if you're religious and you believe in a life after death, you believe in this. This is just a step away. I mean, there's not much difference between a person who says they're a prophet and a person who says they can speak to the dead. So it's, it's all, there's not much of the line is blurry between the two. But anyway, so as I was saying, we do not go to a person who's a believer, who's had a reading. We wait till they come to us. My whole intention is to get the information out about these psychics and make their life miserable, because they know I'm shining a light on them. I've busted this one guy so many times. He's been reading. I don't know if you read Operation. My latest was Operation Onion Ring. He's reading for 5-year-olds to 12-year-olds, a group of 8 kids.
Is that the anti-medicine dude?
No.
You had another article about something ex-medicine. Was a skinny guy, spiky hair. He was talking to a bunch of kids. I saw one of those articles on, I think it was under the Onion Ring one.
Well, Onion Ring is the one, he didn't have anything to do with medicine.
Who names your projects or operations?
Mark Edward does.
They're good.
He comes up with them. They're all Operation something, and they're usually food related. I want them to be easy to spell, easy to remember. And so that somebody could hear it just in passing, Operation Pizza Roll. And then they forget about it. And then later they're like, hey, what was that Operation Pizza Roll thing?
I didn't know you knew him. He actually emailed me earlier this morning when we were recording this.
Who, Mark Edward?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's in the other room.
Put a word. He's in the other room? Okay, well, tell him I'm not a bad guy. Just throw that out.
I'll tell him after, yeah. I told him I was doing it.
Out of the blank.
With you. And so, yeah, of course. So yeah, Mark Edward is, you got to interview Mark Edward.
How do you feel about, because look, you can get a lot of hate, especially we talk about like the believer thing, for instance, like that's got to be hard on you because you're not trying to you are trying to being like, hey, this person's a fraud or something like that. But then the anger can kind of get shoved out towards you because in that moment, they'll lash out at anybody. You're just the person trying to help, but also exposing a lot of these psychics as well, too. I'm afraid because I've heard of covens. So I'm wondering if these online skeptics or psychics, they just get in a circle and kind of like we're going to take this person down.
Yeah, we sacrifice some pizza. No, I don't get hardly any hate. I mean, I do. But I feel very, very empathetic. I'm an extremely sympathetic kind of person, and I take it to heart because I've seen a lot of vulnerable people in my life. I probably would have fallen for these scams. I could have fallen for these scams. I was a very gullible kid, but so I feel really bad for them. People don't usually lash out. I mean, sometimes you'll see them. Some of these psychics. They don't want to talk about it. So if you expose a psychic and somebody says, my psychic's real, blah, blah, blah. And I say, well, did they predict the pandemic? And then it's silent. And they'll say, shut up. You're just mean a hater. And then they block you. And it's like, well, that was a great conversation. Yeah, they're not interested in having a conversation. I don't get hardly any hate from people. I'm not liked at all. And Thomas John and some of the others won't mention my name because when they've done that, Thomas John did give one, he has a lot of followers on Facebook. And so he had one time said, oh, there's this woman, she's crazy. She's a crazy cat lady. And she pretended to have a dead baby. And she did this sting trying to catch somebody. And it was just how awful to try to pretend you have a dead baby. And I did Operation Bumblebee, my very first sting. I organize all the stings. Mark names them. And it was just
that was good. Hang on. Go back to what you just said. You said you did Operation Bumblebee, and that was your first sting.
I get it. Yeah.
That was good. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. Mark named that one, but that's the only one we've ever done that was not food named. Everything else we've done is always
a bumblebee.
I guess.
We all know that
Well,
kid at the sandbox.
Operation Paste, no, garden paste, Operation, glue stick. But so he posted that on his Facebook page, and people just went nuts. They didn't know what he was talking about, but how dare this woman, investigate psychics, and she pretended she had a dead kid. Oh my gosh. Well, what it backfired on him. He got a lot of love. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, how awful that this person was picking on you. But towards the end, people were like, I think I found the article he's talking about. That's that woman named Susan Gerbic. And they started posting the links to my articles. And that was like, wait a minute, you didn't expect that somebody would do that. And then I started getting private messages from people going, hey, I've just been kind of following him. I didn't realize that there was somebody who was actually, researching him. And so I was getting private messages from people who were spilling stuff on, spilling the tea. So it backfired because he doesn't want anybody to know my name. He doesn't want anybody to look into it. He just wants the sympathy. And
Do you guys use pseudonyms? Like, I feel like that's a dangerous thing, especially if you're messing with someone's business. I don't know. Just people are very, very, I would say hyper alert, I would say, when it comes to anything that affects their livelihood. Especially if you're a psychic and you're trying to base your whole thing off that. If you have a person, even if you're doing investigations and stuff, trying to expose them, that just seems like someone like roll up black Cadillac to your house,
No, we use our real names, and we use fake names if we're going to go attend. We go under a fake. We double blind the stings. So when we go in, and we did an Operation Pizza Roll, we went in as Mark and Susanna Wilson. And I'd never heard of this guy, Thomas John, before we did this. And what we did is, so I had a group of people who wrote Facebook pages for us, and they put false information on them. And so when I attended and Mark attended the show, we didn't know it was on the Facebook pages, other than the very basics. I knew I had a brother who had died, who was my twin brother. He died of pancreatic cancer, and his name was Andy, I think. I can't remember now. And Mark knew that his father had died of heart conditions, and that now that Mark is starting to get to the age that his father died at, he's starting to worry about his heart. So when we went to sit in the audience under these fake names, we'd never seen the Facebook pages. We didn't know what was on them other than that just little bit I gave you. And so when Thomas John got up on stage and said, I think I'm in contact with a brother who wants to be in contact with his twin sister. And I raised my hand and they brought the microphone to me. I said, that's me. And he says, oh, because he's telling me something about his stomach, something, I think it's cancer, pancreatic cancer. And I'm like, yes, it is. And I start to cry. Well, pretend to cry. And I've got Kleenex and I'm wiping my eyes. And he says, and I think he gave the guy's name. I have all the audio. So it's all on my website. All the audio is there. So everything could be investigated. And then he went on and he just started talking about a dog. No, he started talking about Buddy. And I said, that's my brother's nickname? And he's like, your brother's nickname is Buddy. I'm like, yeah. I didn't know who Buddy was. And something about Maria, something about Michigan, all sorts of stuff I had no idea. Then he goes to Mark and he's like, Mark, something you're really worried about your heart, and you had a distance. Your father and you had a great distance, which serves two ways: a distance emotionally, or distance in miles between you. And Mark's like, yes, we did. And then he's like, and I know that you're worried about your heart. And Mark's like, he says, you're thinking of getting tests done. And Mark says, yeah, I've already had a whole bunch of tests done. He goes, well, don't worry about it. Check with your doctor, but don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. And we're going to, and it starts talking about stuff we don't know. Mark and I are just like, yeah. And then at one point, I love this. Thomas John starts talking about who smoked and was a smoker and quit. And I look at Mark and Mark looks at me and I said, and Mark goes, that's my brother. And I said, yeah, your brother. Yeah. And Thomas John on stage says, no, it's not your brother. It's the twin's brother, her brother. I don't know what's on the Facebook pages. So I said, oh yeah, my brother, he quit smoking too. So after the fact, the event's over. We don't ever reveal ourselves at the event because it's harmful to the people who were there. I mean, it's not going to work. So when we leave, When it's over, the reading's over, I text the team who's in charge of the Facebook pages and I say, who was Buddy? And they said, oh, that was your dog. I'm like, oh, I claimed it was my brother and his nickname. And who quit smoking? And they're like, I have no idea. Nobody knew. So after the fact, see, these are Facebook pages. We've used them over and over and just wipe out all the information and put new information up. But somebody realized that a long time before, somebody had put up one of those life events, quit smoking, on my twin brother's page. And my twin brother was a fictitious person. He wasn't even real. I don't have a twin brother. I don't have a brother who's died.
That
It
you
was
know
just a
of.
fictitious. No, yeah, I know. And it was like, well, especially who would have lived long enough to have pancreatic cancer and quit smoking. Yeah, no, I
That's
know
such
that.
like a base cancer where it's like it's not too much to raise alertness, but it's also just enough to where like just nobody's gonna really want to care to ask questions.
Well, you play the odds,
Nobody knows what a pancreas is.
I guess it's in this area
Yeah,
because everybody's
exactly.
pointing to. But it's just, it's so we double blind our stings. So the person who's attending does not know what's on the information. So on whatever information we gave, and we do that intentionally so that the psychic can't come back later and say, "Well, I was reading your mind." And with Operation Onion Ring, yeah, the one that just happened in April. Oh, what is this? Almost March now. So it's almost been a year, where he was reading the children. We had a fake. We sent email. There's only 8 people in the event. I don't want to tell your listeners what happens. You'll have to listen to the video because there's a couple twists. But I sent an email to Thomas John with very little information, and then sent somebody in with $400 to attend on Zoom. He read the email back to them, basically just changed some verbiage in there. He's like, oh, and the person who attended doesn't know. They don't know what's on the email. So, he's just reading their Facebook pages back to them, or their email, or obituaries. I've seen him use people's obituaries.
Or even have an earpiece in your ear and have someone reading it.
Well, somebody in the back is doing it. Oh, of course. I mean, I don't have any evidence of that, but I've heard people say that's what's going on. But you don't have to even do it that way. But if you're doing a live show, like when we did Operation Pizza Roll, he was on stage. He never moved for 2 hours. He just stood there. So either he's got a great memory or something, because he never touched anything. We even watched him pick up a water bottle. And Mark Edwards, he's a mentalist. He's a magician. He's like, oh, I bet there's notes on that water bottle, written small. And we thought, no, he's not. No, he didn't do that. There's no way he did it unless he memorized it or he had a wire.
How do you feel about born again people?
Born again like potatoes? No.
No, like the water revival type thing where they dump them underwater and said, you've been healed by the Lord, and pull them back up. Sometimes I'm counting. I'm like, that's been 30 seconds, man. Let him up. You know what I mean?
I was raised a Christian, and I'm an atheist now, and more power to them if that's what they want. I just think that they're vulnerable. Some people need that. Some people need to go into the military. They like that lifestyle of structure and people telling you what to do and so on. So if that's what you need, but I think they're more likely to be preyed upon. And I mean that in the other meaning of the word prey. So I think you get to be vulnerable, but some people have extremely happy lives. They live wonderful, happy lives, fulfilling lives with the people they love, and have wonderful children, and go to football games and graduations, and their daughter gets married, and they're totally happy. And that's fine if that's what they want. I just think I'd like them to be able to go into it knowing that there are other, they have other choices they could have made. I guess they know. I don't have a problem with born again or religious people at all. I find it's all, there's so much religion, whether it's religion or not, it's kind of like a belief structure. I tend to believe my cats love me, but I have no evidence of that.
Sam Kinison was a Pentecostal preacher who did those healings and ceremonies, and he was a famous comedian.
No.
You don't know who Sam Kinison is?
I'll have to look him up.
Oh my God, you're gonna laugh. He was like back in like George Carlin's day. So
I know who that is.
Okay.
But it's a gimmick. It's like hypnosis. That was probably the last thing that I ever
Wait, hypnosis is BS?
Yeah.
What about people that stop smoking? Are they just being
Well,
insinuated in?
it's you have to want to stop smoking. I mean, you have to really want it, and it's something you use. But yeah, of course, it's meditative, like, your mindfulness or whatever you mean by that. But I'm talking about the stage mentalist, a stage hypnotist.
I'm about to say, I get it if someone's hypnotizing me to say like they can't give me superpowers, or I would be flying around the world right now because I
Right,
wouldn't.
yeah, that
Yeah.
stage hypnotism is a gimmick. I mean, you
Chris
can't.
Angel,
Yeah, what about him?
real or not? I gave you two
Well,
options: real or real. Hang on,
James
real.
Randi, right here behind me. See, there's James Randi's little thing.
Yes,
He was a good friend of Mark and mine, and he named Chris Angel. He gave him the name. It's all, yeah, he's a magician. There's no magic there.
okay.
Why would you think there was magic when there's a dozen cameras, and it's carefully edited? It's
Jennifer
a
Love Hewitt,
show.
verified.
Who?
Jennifer Love Hewitt, Ghost Whisperer, verified.
I never saw it, so I can't. I don't know. But
There,
I
you're
think it's
impartial.
probably a TV show or movie, and it's like
It is, yeah.
whatever.
It
I
was
mean,
the
come
joke
on
I had
now.
in the beginning when you were mentioning it was a program on the television. I was like, that's always what these things are. There's that one and Ghost Whisperer. I only watched Ghost Whisperer because she was
She was
attractive.
hot.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. But then again, I'm not, if you're into that, that's fine, but I'm not. So no, more of an Agatha Christie fan. I
I'm
love
definitely into
that.
Jennifer Love Hewitt. Yeah, 100%. What would you say, I guess, on top of like doing the operations, like what's the most difficult part for you? Like emotionally and then kind of not even emotionally, really mentally and then kind of physically as well too. I'm guessing the physically part would be going to these events and then trying to put on an act, because you just described to me what would be like a undercover boss type scenario, which is
Was.
bravo for you. I will fly out to where you are at so we can do that together. I would love to go on one of these things.
We've done a few. It's difficult. My very first one, Operation Bumblebee, we went in person. I had several people volunteer, and that we went, and we had fake Facebook profiles and so on. He was also a ghost hunter type person, and he's still on TV. He's back in. He did Psychic Kids. It was a TV show, and we paid for the VIP tickets and so on. We were supposed to stay late, but after he did readings for the three of us that were there, I was like, we got to go. I cannot put up with this man, not a minute longer. It was just nauseating. Just the things he was telling people, so obvious. But physically, no, we don't really attend a lot anymore. Well, I certainly can't. Susan Gerbic is a little too well known. And so physically, no. The hardest part, the very hardest part that we're dealing with is that we've got these terrific stings. We've busted these people multiple times. There is no way that they're doing that they can squeeze out of the stuff. I've got audio, I've got video, I've got screenshots, I've got all kinds of stuff. We know exactly what they're doing, and they know it too. But some of these psychics, well, like Thomas John, he has a criminal record, so he doesn't want anything. He's not gonna sue or anything that's gonna possibly bring any light to him, because he's gonna just get blowback. It'll be the Streisand effect. But so the hardest thing we deal with is the media. Is that I'll put out a sting busting this guy royally. I've shown how his show Seatbelt Psychic is a fraud. How we watched his videos, his video clips, and we looked through the window behind him and behind the subject in the back seat of the car, and he's reading saying he's getting their dead members, people talking to him. We can see that he's in a loop. This show is supposed to be a ride share, like he's picking people up. Mm-hmm. And we can see it's a loop because we can see the same things in the background through the windows. He's picking him up at the same location and he's driving past the same things. We can see that. The article I did was called Right Turns Only, because he's only making right turns. He's in the closest lane to the curb, probably because for insurance reasons. And I talked to somebody who was in the backseat, who was one of the people who was on the show. And that person told me that they filled out application before. They didn't know what was going on. They thought they were going to go to a talk show. When they showed up at the venue where the event was, they had to sign more papers, and there was other people waiting, and it was all professional. And on the dot, the car drives up at the curb. He walks out to the car. It's full of cameras. Even as he's walking up, there's cameras on the outside of the car filming him walking up. You sit down in the back seat, you put your seatbelt on, there's a camera staring right at you. There's a camera on the dashboard. There's camera to the left. There's all these cameras all over the car. You can't know you're not on a TV show. You don't ever think you're on a ride share. And the guy in the front seat who's driving, Thomas John, never says, "Oh, are you Joe Schmo and I'm supposed to be dropping you off at the airport?" No, he never says that. He doesn't put anything into the computer like, you know, on an iPhone. It's nothing like a ride share. But when they edit it, it looks just like a ride share. And it looks like he's taking these people, you know, it's so carefully edited. It'll look like they're on the way to the airport or wherever, but they never have luggage. They never have anything on. When you're an extra or when you're going to be on a show for like a TV show or something like that, you're instructed that you don't wear anything with logos, no baseball caps with a team name. Yeah, of course, copyright. So they're not going to, so they're all wearing like what you have on right now, just neutral clothing. Like I have something that has a print on it. So there's nothing, I mean, they wouldn't even be able to wear a Nike design.
I am wearing my sponsor's shirt.
What is it? Oh, there you go.
Only forearms.
Only forearms. Well, see, you wouldn't be able to be in the back of the car. You'd have to cover up like that. And so we know that they never have luggage. They're always just a little too well dressed, a little too, you know, the hair is done, the makeup's done, the nails are done. You know, it's just,
I'm wearing makeup.
But people don't think about it. They don't think about it. They watch the show. I see these comments over and over. So of people saying, "Oh my gosh, it's real." My point was, I'm sorry, I get off on a tangent because I love talking. I love it. Is that
you definitely warmed up to me through our chat. The beginning was like serious, and then we just went.
Now you can see my cat behind me. He's moving around. So the thing that the hardest thing is this guy gets a show. Okay, now he had Seatbelt Psychic before we busted him in the New York Times Magazine, but he got another show right after it called the Thomas John Experience. Same thing. It was Seatbelt Psychic, except sometimes he gets out of the car and he goes and talks to them in places. You know, he meets people and talks to them. He's already done hot readings on them. We already know that. And then he got a show in Vegas. In Vegas, he got the Cleopatra room at Caesars for a couple months, and we followed him. Like Caesars Palace.
Circus is where it's at.
Yeah, but he was at Caesars, and we've sent teams of people in. And they recorded the whole session. We watched his Ticketmaster sales. We could see where people were sitting. We saw that there was always this, I mean, even months in advance, the same seats were always reserved, never available. We saw, you know, we recorded it. My team went in, different people went, Las Vegas Skeptics, they went in. They would go in and talk to people that were there. You know, they go in early and sit at the bar and talk to people who were going to be attending. They talked to people afterwards. They talked to his friends. They hung out with, you know, they were just infiltrating the whole thing. We know exactly what was going on. But that's the problem, is that the media will not take it seriously. The New York Times is a fluke. We can't get media to really take this serious. They don't. And the police, you know, people should know better. They should know better. We're not going to do anything. I mean, it's just entertainment is what they say.
Well,
it's not entertainment.
If you lose money as much as you can personally, so it becomes an issue, because the only time you really ever get in legal troubles if it's like in the cause of life or death, like Elizabeth Holmes, the lady who did the CRISPR or whatever the Theranos thing. That only became an issue because people were like, "Oh, you were told that you lost your baby in your pregnancy. It was a miscarriage," and they actually didn't lose their baby. And then people were making life decisions like, "Oh, you had cancer," and they didn't have cancer. That was really messed up, and it actually made life and death decisions. But someone getting a reading, talking to their, you know, whoever, it's not incentivized enough to go after. Honestly, I think you should have your own show. I don't know how you haven't pitched this to like the Sci-Fi Network. I mean,
well, you know, I was just going to tell you
reaction thing, man.
Oh, it's awful. Let me tell you, I have another email from another production company in the UK. I get these all the time. And when the New York Times article came out, I was swamped with people. "Oh my gosh, your story is amazing. We got to do a show. We got to do a show." And then you talk to them and they've done a little research. They kind of understand it. But the thing is they don't get it. Oh, there's a psychic buster out there. His name is Bob Nygaard, Nygaard. He's a friend of mine. He is a private eye who specializes in psychic scams, and he busts people and he makes millions of dollars, people who have been defrauded millions of dollars. The thing is he can't get the police to take it seriously. Not at all. He goes in and he tells them, look, this person has just been busted. I know I've got film, and all this. And they're like, well, she should have known better. He says he spends more of his time trying to get the police to take it seriously. He has to actually embarrass the district attorneys and say, he'll put out on his website or his Twitter account, because it's big. He'll say, this DA won't take this case seriously.
I'll take it.
So that's one of the problems. So they're not doing it. But when I get these production companies who write to me, and like I said, I've got another interview I'm setting up with this woman, it's going to go nowhere, because what happens is they all want to do a story on me. Oh my gosh, this is the best thing. You guys are amazing. But they want to talk only about cases that have passed, like Sylvia Brown, or these other ones that have been busted, have already had cases that have been solved, because they're really worried about the litigation. They're really worried about being sued. That's one of the problems. The second problem is they all want to talk to Bob Nygaard, who can find them somebody who's got like hundreds of thousands of dollars lost. And I keep making the point to people when I talk to these people, these production companies who all want a piece of me, right? I tell them that there are people who are being taken advantage of for $75. And you know what? That $75 means a hell of a lot to somebody who can't
life
keep
and death.
Am I paying for my prescription medication this month, or am I going to get the psychic reading? That's a lot of money to some of these people. Plus the grief of being taken advantage of, to be fooled. Like the woman I was telling you about who had a reading, and she just lost it because she was just, oh my gosh, this is the best Christmas ever. And then for days she was crying about it. And then even like a month or two later, I talked to her. She says, I don't even think I could talk about this again. I can't believe that I was so taken advantage of. And when you get to be older, you got a long ways to go, Robbie.
I'm 46.
Oh my gosh, you're next to me. Let me get your walker out for you. You look a lot younger. But when you're older, in your 70s and 80s, and I know this because I've taken care of my mother, and who was 85, and she had to move into my home. You're always looking for, when do we take the keys away? When do we have to start going to the doctor visit with?
I lost my grandma in March, so we had to do that.
I'm so sorry. But that's exactly what it is. It's just you as a loving, caring person who's taking care of them, you're always going, is this the moment when I have to have that talk with them about, maybe they're starting to, it's awful to be the caregiver and to be the person who's being taken advantage of. When you are defrauded like that, you say to yourself, my kids are going to take my car keys away from me now. My grandkids are going to take away my checking account from me. I'm going to lose even more. I'm going to have to move into a home. My kids are going to tell me that I'm not, and that's right. It's going through your brain, whether it's true or not. People who are getting closer to feeling like that time is encroaching on them is that they say, my kids are going to think I'm a fool. And how are they going to respect me again? And we've heard this from people who are professors who have been defrauded, lawyers, people who should know better, you would think. They're highly educated, have a lot of wealth, or both, or either. And they say, how could I possibly look my coworkers in the eye again when they know that they've just given $100,000 to a psychic and they just were reading my Facebook page? It's a horrible feeling. So I keep telling these production companies, I want to talk about the harm this does, not to the person who's lost $1 million, not to the person who's lost 100,000, but to that woman who lost $75. And now her peace of mind is absolutely ruined. It's the feeling of whenever somebody comes into your house and steals something, they break in through the window. It's not what they took. It's not the item that was taken from your house. It's a sense of losing that feeling of security. The feeling that you thought you could trust others and you can't now. The feeling that you thought you could leave your window open. You thought And then now you know you can't, that this is a horrible, awful world out there. And that these people are waiting to prey on you if they get a chance. People you thought you trusted, people you thought were nice to you. And you thought, I could tell a fraud from somebody else. They're just being nice. No, they're looking for an in, and you were their victim. And that's what it is. And I want to show about that. And they also, oh, we totally get it. But can you give me Bob Nygar's number? Because we want to see if we can find, it's like, I'm so sick of this. Or the TV shows are all, let's tell both sides of the story. Mark and I have agreed. There's no two sides of the story. We're not telling two sides of any story. You want to have a psychic on? More power to you. We're not going to have anything to do with it. You psychics have had a full run on this for years. All these con people, give me a break. They're out to harm. They're out to victimize. Whether they internally think that they're actually helping, bullshit. I don't know if I can say bullshit on your show, but
I think I've dropped the F word already.
Oh, have you? I didn't notice.
We don't do censorship here. It just say
well,
what comes to mind.
It's so sad. It is, and people aren't getting that. And I don't know if it's because the people I'm always talking to are younger and they don't have situations like you had with your grandmother where
look, I get upset when I put my grandmom in her final resting place. Like I picked her up, moved her because she had shut down by the time I got there. And then I put her in her hospital bed that we had inside her house because she wanted to die in her home. And that's what she did. She died in her home. She's a very private woman, martini drinking gal, raised in those times. And not even a week or two later, my mom's cleaning out her house and there's a card on the thing for me. And apparently this was like years ago when I graduated college. She thought she mailed it. She didn't. So I got a card and it says, "Forever my love, always Nana, XO or XXXOOO." Now that broke me down hard. And it's still, I'm tearing up even thinking about it. Because it's like losing a parent in a sense. But then hearing someone in my family whose mother just passed away, which is my grandmom, saying, that's a sign of a message from heaven. Now, I'm not going to say a damn word about anything that comes that, even though I'm not religious at all. I'm going to let her have that and just me think what I'm going to think. But in a sense, like that's where I'm at. Like, I don't believe in a whole bunch of an afterlife type thing. I think more like we're energy and it kind of just dissipates away in a sense. But when it's something like that, like I get it. And that's when I start to get upset when the way you describe, like, for instance, seeing these psychics take advantage of people. That's hard stuff. Because if someone would have did that to me, I would be in a state where I wouldn't know what to do and what to say. I would believe it and I would feel touched. Now, if that helps me get to the next day, but you can't incentivize that because it always leads to money. Then people are losing lots of money. I mean, you mentioned the person that was an ex-criminal. That's a Ponzi scheme that you're getting into now. And that's kind of like, I can probably see a lot of these people could be ex-criminals. I mean, it's a quick way to make cash. You don't really care about people's feelings that much. It's really a self or disregard for the actual emotional connection that people have with their loved ones in a sense. And it just gets weirder when you get down this rabbit hole of the people that actually believe that they have this type of thing. Like I said, there's things I've been able to do that I can't explain, but I'm not reading anybody's fortune and I don't want to read anybody's fortune. But you got to go back to my back catalog. I've had tarot card read twice on here. Now, one of them, the guy got there's 7 things he got right and there were 9 things total and 2 things left to happen. I don't know about that, but I don't know.
Until you have Mark Edward on, he'll read your tarot. He's very good at it.
Does he really?
Oh, of course.
Oh my God. Yes, please.
He was on the Psychic Friend Network for years and he does tarot. He'll still do it. We just did a local bookshop the other day. He was reading people's tarot. It's a skill.
He told me
art. Talk.
Well, the guy, the tarot card here, he was doing it for free. He's a friend of mine. His wife's been on the show too, but he was reading it and he was like, "You meet the love of your life." And I was like, "Oh my God, awesome." And he was like, "But you guys break up." And I was like, "Why would I break up? And she's the love of my life." He goes, "Because she's a white supremacist." I'm like, "That'll do it. That'll do it. That'll do it."
It's just talk. It's glib. And, I started to cheer up a little bit when I was hearing you talk. That's really sad. And it's just, that's how it is. These poor people at a vulnerable moment in your life, almost all of us are able to fall for this. And going back to what you first said about feeling special, there doesn't have to be any money in it because a lot of these people feel special. They feel like they're giving back to their community, their family, and they're treated with reverence, right? So even if they never take $1 from somebody, they're given priority. They're a person of seniority in their neighborhood and their community or whatever it is, and they feel special. Now, going back to Operation Onion Ring with the kids, there was one of the things that Thomas John hyped on this was that he was going to talk to the kids about, he was talking to their dead family members, right? But he made it sound like what it was doing was, it was the children, mediumship for the children, for them to become mediums, that kind of thing. I think you have potential to be a medium.
Cult of cookie peddlers. They're all going to the Girl Scouts.
Well, one little girl, she was 12. It was awful. And I write about this in the article, Operation Onion Ring, that how much I wanted to just reach out and hug her, because she, and actually another little boy too, you could tell that they felt special because they used to be able to be in touch with their grandmother, their family members. They were having dreams. Oh, and they were getting signs from heaven, pennies. They'd find a penny with a year on it, or they'd hear music and there was a sign from the dead person. It's like, that's the oldest trick in the book. If you were to look in the book for psychic readings or how to be a psychic, that's like the first thing. Are you getting coins? It's like, yeah, I get coins. I find them all the time. And you pick them up, you look at the year on it. Oh, that's the year that grandma graduated from high school. So she was trying, it's like, give me a break. Any year has a relevance to you if you try hard enough. But anyway, these kids, they were losing their specialness. And you could tell that it was, I can't show you the video because I have it private, but I have the video of all the reading, and I have a transcript of all the reading, and I have some of the audio that I can release only in certain cases, but because privacy, right? But these kids, they're obviously growing up and moving on with their lives. They're forgetting about their dead family members. They're forgetting about the dreams they had. They're forgetting about these things. They're moving on, but the parents won't let them do it. They're like, don't you remember how you used to contact? And they're like, yes. And they start to cry. They're no longer special. But whenever you say you're having dreams about your grandmother, you're having dreams about your next door neighbor who died when you were, you're special. And now you're not. And that's a horrible feeling because these parents push it. You could see them on this video. They're like, oh, my son wants to tell you about the time he saw a dark shadow at the door and it was a bad feeling and all this. It's like, really? The kid's like 6. How does he remember that? It was back when his mother died 3 years ago. So you mean when he was 3? I mean, and you're still pushing this story. Hey, tell the nice psychic that you saw a dead person once, that you had a dream about your mommy. Really? And that's what they're doing. And he's charging them $400 a pop. And he's giving them a 10-minute reading. And I know
will pay any amount of money to the person that can speak to OJ's wife or whoever he killed and just get the facts straight.
Well, there's a whole room of people out there who's already been there and done that. Mark might tell you about the time when Michael Jackson died and he had 2 psychics write to him. And they're like, I'm the only person who can talk to Michael Jackson.
That's
like,
what
no,
the psychic on my show did. She talked to Michael Jackson on my show. She also talked to JFK, Walt Disney, and Mr. Rogers, because I think Mr. Rogers is hiding something. Nobody's that nice.
Bullshit. And you think about it. God damn it. These people should deserve a little peace and not have to have their lives pulled in it. Can you imagine being the family member of these people, JFK's family or Nicole Brown, Simpson, all this? Can't we just leave it alone? Do we have to have these people constantly saying, oh, I'm getting a message from no, just let them alone. Let the family go to the grocery store and not see a tabloid of somebody saying, oh, I remember the day,
How do you feel
let
about
them move on with their lives? My God, Jesus.
How do you feel about Oliver Stone's documentary on JFK?
It has already been debunked.
Damn it.
I think it's already been completely eviscerated. Didn't Bigliosi do a 700 or 1,000 page book on it? They
killed JFK. It was the government. Yeah, they did.
You're funny.
I'm very skeptical when it comes to the government.
Yeah, I saw that when I was listening to you talk to Mick West. I thought that was very interesting. You asked him great questions, but you had this thing about the government.
I've studied too much of the past history with it. And I'm like, I think people think from a personal standpoint. You need to look from a business standpoint. Like, I think the Illuminati is real, but I don't think it's what everyone thinks about, like giant, like people in cloaks. If they're doing that, Bohemian Grove aside, whatever. But I think it's just, you have a bunch of billionaires that found out how to cheat the system, because sadly our system is set up that if you have money, you don't really get in a whole lot of trouble and you can really do whatever you want. I mean, Bezos wanted to tear apart a bridge to let his boat go through and build apart a bridge. I just go, I mean, that's what technically the Illuminati is. It's just a bunch of people that have the same agenda and they have a same seat at the table. It's not people in black cloaks.
We sacrifice a goat and we drink the blood.
They don't do that.
Yeah.
That's not what they do.
I think Nick West explained that to you quite well when he talked to you about it. I think that answers that. And the Bezos thing, my son tried telling me that same thing. And I said, well, if you actually read the articles about it, it turns out that the government was given the choice. We can either let the boat float under the river and under the bridge and it's out and it's not finished, or we could keep it here and we will employ a bunch of people at their job, and they'll be able.
I don't accept that answer. That's their third boat. That company. True. That's their third boat. The company's made that doesn't fit under the bridge. Stop. They know what they're doing. They don't want that bridge there. Well, you don't make 3 boats in a row, and they tell them every time, "Hey, man, the boat is big again." What you can do is let's find a way to block some of the water and shrink it down to where the boat can go through. That's a smart idea.
Or move the company to some other place where they can actually work on boats on the other side of the river. There's other reasons. If the point is, it doesn't have to be a conspiracy.
I'm not
Money talks, but the government says we would rather move the bridge than lose the jobs. We looked at this economically, and we think that these people getting money we're going to make more money in employment than we are from the bridge. And maybe moving the bridge isn't that big a deal. Well, $1 million, $2 million is nothing if they're making, $5 million.
I'm with conspiracies up until the point where they get violent. When they get violent, I cut it off, because I think it's nice to have a healthy skepticism. Honestly, if you don't think, like the Pizzagate thing, for instance, if you don't think that there isn't some situation where kids are being trafficked, then that's a different discussion. That was a overreaction, much like when you start finding rabbit holes everywhere, you start diving down every single one. I think there's a real, like Epstein really alerted a lot of people to some serious stuff that's going on. I hope there's a government thing that's investigating these private islands. I think when you're a billionaire.
Oh yeah, of course.
Well, what I'm saying,
I don't think it's a conspiracy except by the person who's trafficking the kids.
What about the Wuhan thing?
What about it?
Conspiracy? I got called a conspiracy theorist, and now the narrative switched to the point where they're like, oh, it actually possibly could have came from there. I was like, yeah, don't know. You banned people online for even mentioning that.
No, I've just read a book I just read a book from Nina Burley, who was talking about, she did the research on it, and she clearly says, she talks about the Wuhan thing. She's not been banned. She's been
Eric Weinstein had his whole page taken down.
I don't know who that is.
That's the evolutionary biologist that was talking about how he worked on bats at one point. And what about the Australian lady from Twitter that said she worked at the lab, and then after it came out that it could come at the lab, she deleted her Twitter and nobody can find her anymore. So
I don't know. I don't know much about it.
I'm just saying, that's all.
Well, it's true. But the thing is that you have to have a certain point. You need to put it on pause, because we don't know. It has just been 2 years. It is so soon. Yeah. These things will come out if there's something to come out. But
or it turns into a 9/11.
Looking for oh goodness gracious, if you're looking for something, you're going to find it. Especially if you already have in your mind, there is a conspiracy, I'm going to find it. I found a thread. I'm going to pull that thread until I get to the end. It's not.
I think I'm better than everybody else at a healthy skepticism. I think I've proven that with all the episodes.
I fail all the time. I fail all the time because I don't know everything. I have to trust, and I trust the people that are well, you got it at some point. When your mechanic says he's fixed your car, you got to trust him. When your person who says they love you, you have to believe it. When your cat says, feed me.
I just had my car fixed. It was a little.
How did I know that? How did I know that? I knew that.
It was a couple months back, but they were like, hey man, like, I'm surprised you made it here in this car. Your calipers are all messed up. And I could tell because the car was like shaking. It felt like a tire was going to pop off. And I was like, yeah, I was like, okay. And he goes, and your brakes, like they're rubbed down to nothing. And I noticed that when I would go to a stop, and I was like, so what's going on? He's like, well, we fixed it, but it's going to be this. And I was like, why did you do that? And he was like, what? I was like, I just wanted to hit my brakes one time and it didn't work. And then whatever happens, happens. He goes, that's terrible. And I'm like, thanks. $800.
I have a feeling that a lot of it is legal. I know that that in some areas you can't allow a person to leave the station if they have faulty brakes. They would be sued if you got in an accident and you left and they knew that you had faulty brakes or bad tires.
The law stepping in again where
well, you know what? That's fine. I don't want somebody to be on the road in front of me or behind me or whatever with brakes that are about to go. They have one last brake on it and they're going down a hill and I'm walking my dog along the side of the road and I try to pass in front of them. Their brakes don't work. Yeah.
God forbid you can't get to your Wetzel's pretzels because I hit the back of your car.
Well, still, if I am able to, I will sue. I probably wouldn't, but I'm not the suing type. But my children will sue the car garage who knew damn well that they let that car go.
It's a fair point, but it's not my fault. I'd be dead. I wouldn't have to deal with it.
But we could talk to you later because there are psychics who can
exactly,
and they'll be able to go back and listen.
So stop hounding them.
No, it's just such a horrible thing. But yeah, we've got all kinds of articles. Operation Lemon Meringue, Operation Bumblebee, Operation Ice Cream Cone, Operation Tater Tot, Operation. We've done a bunch of different things.
I gotta ask Mark, why is it always food stuff?
Oh, because I want it to be something that can be remembered. I want it to be 2 words. Bumblebee's the only exception because we didn't know we were doing when we did Bumblebee. And I need it to be something that doesn't have, like if you Google Operation Onion Ring, there's no other Operation Onion Ring. There is an Operation Bumblebee. That was a mistake we made. It's a military, it has a Wikipedia page for it. It's a military operation, I think in World War II or something, or the Vietnam War, Operation Bumblebee.
Look up Operation Vigilant Guardian.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Yeah, for 9/11.
Yeah.
Coincidence?
Well, it's just the word operation.
Nah, they definitely got a warning that was going to happen, whether it was in the past 10 years or so.
It's just fun. And I want to make sure there's nothing like going on a news station or whatever, or a podcast like yours and saying Operation Onion Ring over and over. I mean, it makes me laugh. It's just like, this is so ridiculous. It is so stupid.
Is my show a joke to you?
Operation Onion Ring, Operation Pizza Roll.
I think it's funny. I think that's pretty cool names for stuff too. Plus,
I've heard that.
When you're doing so much of this stuff too, you got to make it fun as well. Make yourself laugh.
Well, it's humorous and it's rememberable. I'm sure people, when they listen to the show, are going to go, I can't forget Operation Ice Cream Cone. Or
I want to get Mark on, but then I want to have you both on to do a double because I would love to talk to you again. It's been amazing talking to you. I think you're an epic person.
I'm sure going to get that TV show someday, huh? That's the other thing. What would we do a TV show about? What would you do a TV show about? They're like, oh, we'll watch you do your stings. I'm like, oh, you're going to watch me type.
I want to watch Jersey Shore.
My cat comes back and forth.
Jersey Shore, but now they're all older and all they do is drink wine and complain about bills.
Yeah. There's nothing to watch. I can't put on a sting where I could easily put on a sting again if I had a reporter with me to do it. And if I'm planning on not doing any more stings for a while until I have media here saying we're going to report on it.
I'll fly out.
I mean, I need like New York Times.
No, you don't. No, you don't need the Times, the Post. They're all lies.
I need somebody who's going to report to get out of the choir far. I have to have big coverage.
Call a news network station.
I've done that. And in Operation Onion Ring, we had NBC.
Well, change the name so they take it seriously.
No, they love that part.
Oh, God.
And so this NBC reporter was all on it. She was all there. She was ready to go. I had her in. Everything was ready to go. And then she didn't show. She ghosted me.
Do louder with Crowder.
Who?
Steven Crowder.
Sounds familiar. No, the thing is
the political
people tell me, why don't you get in touch with I have tried to get in touch, and people have tried to get in touch with all these people. They're not interested.
You know, Mick West, get on Joe Rogan.
Oh yeah, that's popular. And he has no pull of Joe Rogan anymore. That was years ago. And I don't want to be in Joe Rogan's show. He would just,
I'd love to talk to Joe.
well, if he wants to talk to me, fine. Be in touch.
But he's like me. I think after talking with so many people, I started to understand where he's coming from, where like you've seen the evolution of it a little bit more. I don't want to keep harping on Rogan because I know he's getting a lot of stuff now, but I mean, it's like, for instance, I've been called saying I'm racist because all I have is white people on. No, that's not true at all. You could look through the back catalog, but no one ever looks past 5 episodes. And that's the thing, is that a lot of times I'm messaging a page or an email, and then people just want to assume what they want and hear what they want and say what they want. And that's kind of the issue with the grand aspect. So I have empathy in that factor for it. But you talk to so many people, I never know where these conversations are going to go. Besides the psychic thing, our next chat could be about whatever. We could just talk about food, for instance. It's random. It's fun. It's my personality in a show.
Conversations with people who have interesting histories or things to tell you. I mean, I totally get it. Joe Rogan is, I was reading the New York Times article by Julie Blozzi. I can't think of her name now. She was a reporter who used to write for Vox. She wrote this New York Times article about Joe Rogan and how it's, how it isn't really, it's just a tip of the iceberg as far as misinformation. And I know that. As I'm reading the New York Times article on my phone, I'm getting ads for like alternative medicine, stomach, pumping stuff you can buy. And it's like, really, this is everywhere. You can't, Joe Rogan is just a blip. I mean, he's a big blip, but misinformation is prevalent until the media stops putting on these freaking ghost hunting shows where everybody's scaring each other in the dark. Turn on the lights, people. They're like, ooh, it's scary here. Ooh, I'm getting a I personally believe, Robbie, I believe this 100%, that the public is sick and tired of being lied to.
I am very.
We are sick of it. We want some accountability. So I think if they started wanting to do shows about somebody getting busted, like a psychic, and we busted him, I think that would be massive. I think people are more than ready for it. But I think that these Hollywood producers and the people who are putting the shows on Netflix, they don't think that we're ready for that. They think we just want to watch Garage Wars or buy the best prom dress or hoarders or whatever. They think we still want to see that kind of stuff. And I guess it works. People are buying it. But they think we're stupid. I really think that the entertainment people who make decisions think that the public is stupid. I don't think we're stupid.
Yeah,
I think we're ready for this.
Now you see my distrust of the government. That's the exact same train of thought. They plan us like we're idiots, and we're not idiots. Well,
it's marketing, because their numbers say, let's put on Storage Wars or Deadliest Catch or whatever. I mean, I guess it was interesting, but it's just, and it's dangerous, but
it's all streaming services now. They don't watch TV anymore.
Well, you know what I mean. What's on Netflix, on Peacock and Prime and all that.
I haven't turned on my TV in months.
Oh, come on, really?
I'm dead serious. I canceled my Xbox subscription. The podcast takes up so much of my time, and then when I'm not doing that, I'm on my phone just getting guests and trying to book and get, because it's hard to get guests too. So it's like, spending time doing.
You contacted me yesterday. I'm on today.
Yeah, that's why I was like, holy crap, she's really responded to this. Where I was like,
I'm very on it. I'm retired.
I'm happy.
I can do these things. I can respond quickly.
You should be getting drunk out by the lake.
I don't really drink. I don't have a lake. We have an ocean. I'm in California. I'm near the coast.
I'm in Ocean City, so it's like.
Where's that? New Jersey?
Maryland.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Don't ever mix us up with Jersey.
I'm not an East Coast person. I was born and raised here in California, so I don't know these things. But no, seriously, I think that it's important that we get this message out. But the problem is that we're constantly talking to the choir. People read my articles. I do get contacts from people all the time, not as much as I did whenever, it appears in the New York Times or something, but people are constantly emailing me saying, I can't believe I fell for this. And it's so sad.
What'd you think about what'd you think about when you were coming on this show? Were you nervous?
No.
Were you scared that I was going to be some type of crazy crackpot?
I've been on paranormal shows. It
I'm
wouldn't
not a
bother me.
paranormal show. I'm an out of the
No, I
dome
know,
show.
but it wouldn't bother me if you had come on and
Don't give me your labels. No, I was kidding.
there. I doubt that there would be anything that you would have been able to do that would have been made me nervous. I'm not shy at all. I'm very outgoing and I love people. I love people.
You have a warm personality.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I love people. I really do. I'm a cat person, so
I'm a Capricorn, so you know how they go.
Well, you know how they are. I'm a Leo, and Leos are very friendly in their leadership. And I have a Scorpio moon and a Scorpio rising sun. I was into this in high school.
My anxiety's going through the roof.
But
Everyone I know my age is like that. Like, oh, it's because you're a Capricorn. I'm like, what does that mean? Do you want a burrito or not?
No, I wasn't nervous at all. And I checked you out. So I have ways. And of course I know West well. So no, the thing is that I've been on shows that are definitely paranormal based, and I'm fine with talking to people about that. Sure, that's even the better place. Talk to me, put me on a paranormal show. Okay. Let's talk.
I'll revamp the show for you if you want.
No, that's quite all right. But I'm fine with that. And
I would love to have you back on. It's literally we've almost been talking for an hour and a half.
That's fine. I when I take my glasses off, which I have my glasses off, I'm not paying attention to time or anything that's going on.
I thought you were getting serious because I mentioned
the deja vu thing,
and you whipped them suckers off. I was like, oh,
it's a way for me to focus. If people see me on a show and they see that I have my glasses off, then I'm totally focused on what's happening in front of me. If I have my glasses on, I'm reading stuff around me, or I have multiple screens. So I'm looking at over here, I have a screen, over here, I have a screen. I have my screen right here. I have, things written. This is a war room. I have everything but the clocks all over the wall that have the time on it.
Can you catch catfishes? That has a show. How do you not have psychics?
Okay, so Catfish is a show that Mark and I were recommended to watch because there was a person who we might end up doing a series with. I don't know, eventually, who is somebody we know. Mark has worked with them before. That's done other shows. Bullshit, Penn and Teller Bullshit. And The Con, the ABC show, The Con, Mark was just on that. So we were recommended to watch catfishing, and we also catfish. And we also were told to watch Don't Fuck with Cats. Because there was a network that wanted me to actually, now that I think about it, it was another one of these production companies that told me to watch these because they wanted to do a show that was similar to that. To Catfish and to Don't Fuck with Cats. Because besides the psychic stuff I do, I also run a Wikipedia group. We're a Wikipedia editing team. And so... can
you make me a Wikipedia?
No.
Why? Am I not known?
It's Wikipedia.
How do I get a check mark? Give me a check mark.
I want a check mark, but they don't handing those out as much anymore. But no, Wikipedia notability is extremely difficult to prove. So... no, I get that question all the time. But so what I do, okay. So what they do is, you know how this, the January 6th has all these thousands of videos out there, right? With people, and there's all these volunteers who've given thousands and thousands of hours at the time looking for the people in the crowd. They're investigating that and they're going through social media and so on. So that's like catfishing a lot. And it's just like Don't Fuck with Cats. So what I've been doing with the psychic world is really similar to Don't Fuck with Cats. We follow these psychics around. I know what they're doing. I know what's going on because I have a team of people who are following their lives as much as they can. Anything is social. I just talked to an ex-boyfriend of Thomas John recently. Told me what was the deal, what he was like. So it's kind of like what we do is Don't Fuck with Cats, except we're busting psychics. But we can't get the media to be interested to do the story.
Maybe
so what
because
are you gonna
lawsuits.
Do? Yeah, you can't. What are you going to sue for?
I don't know if they're psychic. Yeah, these people followed me and they took video of my privacy, walking up to my doorstep and taking off my toga robe.
No, we're not doing that. Okay. No. It's just how it is.
Well, at least I give you a platform.
There you go. I appreciate
I
that.
want. I'm
This
dead
is a different
serious.
audience that I'm used to talking to,
I'm
so that's
dead
great.
serious on doing it again. This has been epic.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
I'm right here.
But I want to get Mark.
I don't
and
have
you
any more
also.
stings planned for a while. So why don't you read some of the old stings, and then you can ask me a lot of questions about it, because I think your audience might find those interesting.
Gotta do
We
research.
catch them and we put it out.
Operation Horn Dog. Tell me about it.
No, there's no food related to that.
Okay.
No. Operation Onion Ring, Operation Ice Cream Cone. We did a phone psychic. And
You have Operation Silver Spoon.
No, that's not food.
It's a food item. You have ice cream cone. Ice cream cones aren't food. They're a tool to bring the ice cream to your mouth.
Ice cream cone. Well, it was the second one we did. We weren't really thinking.
There's sometimes you bite into one, it's like cardboard and it just hurts your teeth. You're like, oh.
Maybe because it's cardboard.
Yeah. Where can people find you, Susan?
Well, I'm most prolific on Facebook. Please friend me, send me private messages. I really am interested in listening to anything that anybody has audio or video of a reading, and then their take on what it is. I'm very interested in that. I'm writing a book on grief vampires, and I would love to talk to anybody who has that. So Facebook is definitely where you can get a hold of me. I'm on Twitter, but I don't really, I mean, I put out some tweets every once in a while, and but nothing major. Twitter. Thank you. But Facebook is more likely where people can get a hold of me. I think it's
I
nice
sent you a friend request.
Oh, fantastic.
Through my personal.
Fantastic. So you can kind of see what's going on there. I don't do, like I said, I haven't been doing stings in a while. Last one was April of 2021. And I'm just kind of waiting for big media to finally say, okay, we're ready. And I'm hearing from people all the time, but I'm just not hearing from the right people. We're going to do a sting with
Sting?
Inside Edition. Yeah, Inside Edition, I think is what it's called.
You're doing a sting with Sting?
No, but we've had TV shows that have approached us to do a sting with them. They wanted to recreate a sting, or they wanted to do it again, something. And it's like, no.
Get Alice Cooper on.
Well, Alice Cooper is
he looks like a tarot card reader.
He was a very good friend of James Randi's also. He kind of gave James Randi his ump in the world, because James Randi and Alice Cooper used to tour, and James Randi used to be the executioner that would execute Alice Cooper every night on stage.
They shot him on stage?
No, he guillotined him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so James Randi and Alice Cooper had a very long history. And that was actually the beginning of this modern skeptic movement, because James Randi was very interested in this man called Uri Geller, who was a spoonbender. And so he invited another person who's a good friend of mine now, Ray Hyman, who is a psychologist at the University of, professor of psychology at the University of Eugene, Oregon. And they went to an Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper invited Ray Hyman to go to the show, and James Randi and him talked about it. They said, we got to do something about this Uri Geller person. And that became eventually a group called Psychop, Center for Skeptical Inquiry, which I'm a fellow of. And they investigate claims of the paranormal. So I'm associated with them in ways. And I'm associated with a lot of groups. But anyway, so that was, Alice Cooper was kind of the start of the James Randi fame.
Well,
I'm really dating myself because I know this history. Yeah.
Susan Gerbic on Facebook, Susan Gerbic on Twitter, and your site one more time.
Oh, SusanGerbic.org.
That's .org. Really? Nonprofit?
Really, well, it's a nonprofit. We are called About Time Project, and we are a nonprofit that investigates psychics. I mean, it cost us $800 to do Operation Onion Ring.
Yeah. Why are you doing nonprofit then? You should be getting paid.
No.
Okay.
No,
that's how I know you're a good person.
I just won an award, and I donated all the money to the nonprofit.
What was the award called?
The Bales Award. It was given to me a couple weeks ago. It's sitting over here. I can't reach it. It's super heavy. It's
This is a genuine actual clap. Like, I'm not just fucking around. Like, this is serious. Like, seriously, that's awesome.
It's an award for I just got it. It was awarded to me in 2019. I didn't know I was being awarded it. They kept it secret because the pandemic, they kept canceling the conferences, but they gave it to me the other day when I did a talk for Skeptical Inquirer called cat herding or something like that. I also did a talk for the Commonwealth Club called Operation Onion Ring. So there's a lot of stuff out there that talks about what I've done, but I wanted to be farther. We got to get like Washington Post or something, USA Today.
Aim higher than the Post. Good God.
Oh yeah. I just got an article. They interviewed me for another New York Times article too, just recently. That appeared in, I think,
Josh Rogan.
January. Get me on. I'm just not going to ask. People have asked. I've asked. Nobody's.
I've been trying to get Josh Rogan on this show for the longest time. He follows me on Twitter.
Oh, there you go.
I want to learn more about the sea. I'm interested in so many things. I think that's the only reason why my show has any appeal is because I'm all over the freaking board.
Well, we could talk details if you want to talk details, but if you want to talk generalities, we can talk. Today, we just talk generalities. People can look it up if they want. But yeah,
let me study and then bring you back on.
Okay, that's fine.
But I got to talk to Mark first too.
Yeah, he's in the other room.
I didn't know you guys were in the same room together. That's awkward.
Well,
don't tell him I told you we were emailing.
Well, he'll tell me. I know he will.
He literally responded to me right as soon as I hopped on here. I was like, okay. Yeah, thanks great. For being on, Susan, and thanks to everybody.
I appreciate it. It's fun.
Thanks to everybody listening to the episode of Out of Blank. Stay tuned for next episode.